it's nice to move efficiently in the mountains, I think. I think that's what I like about it. I think the idea with the fastest known time is, it's saying you're not aware of anyone else who's done it faster, but there may well be. Basically just doing something faster than anyone's done it before. My name is Nick Elson. I'm, I guess, a climber, runner, skier, La Sportiva athlete in Squamish. Grew up on Vancouver Island. I was lucky enough to be sort of introduced to the mountains at a pretty young age. Did a lot of hiking and eventually got into climbing. I also sort of competed in endurance sports growing up, so cross-country skiing and track and field and that sort of thing, before eventually sort of combining all that stuff in lighter alpine climbing or alpine running, that sort of thing. It's actually maybe if you take the total amount of suffering of doing something in a relatively light style compared to, say, doing the same thing with a multi-day pack, you might actually suffer less if you do it in a light and fast style. And there's something nice about moving efficiently through the mountains and feeling somewhat unencumbered and yeah, covering a lot of distance in a day, I think, is just something that's I've always sort of gravitated towards. Certainly a concern I have is that people coming from a running background will think, well, this is just running. We can approach it the same way we would going for a trail run. But I sort of view it more as a continuum from mountaineering rather than a continuum from the running side of things, if that makes sense. And so that's the direction I would recommend people approach it from, is from a mountaineering background, gain that experience, and then you'll start to learn what gear you can leave behind maybe, or how you can make your gear that you're bringing a little bit lighter, and you'll learn how to move more efficiently. Because it's always easy to train. If you want to move faster, you can always train and get fitter, but it's the experience in the mountains and the judgment and stuff that takes time to acquire. So I think learning mountain skills first and having that base, and then you can always get fitter to move faster. And I guess as far as the risk aspect of it, everyone obviously has their own risk tolerance. I think the important thing is to actually understand the risk you're taking and decide whether the risk-reward balance is acceptable for you personally. But certainly a lot of risk can be mitigated. I think planning is a big part of avoiding risk. So there's a lot of things that go into that, and it may be even, a certain route may make sense to do it first in a heavier style, and then maybe you'll feel ready to do it in a lighter style. I think there's a lot of ways you can reduce the risk in these sort of things, but of course there's always going to be uncertainty and risk in the mountains. I think that a Tantalus traverse, you start in Sigurd Creek and end at the cable car across the river. I think the sort of short version is to only summit Tantalus, and the long version, like what Jesse and I did, would be to summit Pelion, Tantalus, Dione, Serratus, and Alpha. Yeah, no, the first time I did the Tantalus traverse was over 3 days, and so not fast and light, and that was probably laying the groundwork for future traverses. So we wanted to do sort of a longer traverse, tagging 5 of the summits. So we started in Sigurd Creek, just late enough that we didn't need headlamps, which was nice. We climbed up the trail, up the moraine and onto the snow, and then up Pelion. Summit of Pelion. About 3 hours 20. Okay, 2,300 meters of elevation gain. Take the summit of Pelion, descended. Yeah, and then climbed up the north ridge of Tantalus using the bypass onto the west side. Slogged up the snow, scrambled up the ridge. I saw actually 2 other parties on the north ridge of Tantalus. Summit of Tantalus. 640. We then descended the standard route on Tantalus, and we saw 2 other parties there. We tagged Dione.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, number 3.
Oh.
805.
Then Serratus, which is where we lost the most time. So we climbed the west face, which is actually a great route that went pretty smoothly.
Summit of Serratus, number 4. 10:08 from the car.
But then, looking from the summit, I looked down at the South Couloir, and it had melted out in the top part, but it looked like the snow was continuous in the lower part, and I thought, well, that puts you in a better spot than descending back down the west face. So we descended the upper part, which was quite loose and terrible. And I'd forgotten, like every time I descended the South Couloir before, I'd been by myself, which is less stressful in terms of knocking rocks on your partner. And then when we got to the snow, we put on crampons and pulled out the ice axes and started down climbing. And first section, the snow got quite narrow, but it was also completely melted out underneath with a pretty big moat. Like, you know, if you broke through, you'd fall like 30 feet or more down into the depths. And I didn't want a chance crossing it, so he slung a horn and then made a rappel over that section of the snow, put the crampons back on, down climbed some more, and then there was another moat where the snow was not connected, but it was overhanging, and again with a massive moat in between that you really would not want to fall down. So again, had to take off the crampons, climb onto the rock next to the snow, find an anchor, make another rappel, put the crampons back on, and down climb the rest of the core. So it was not as smooth or efficient as we'd hoped. Certainly, probably I would say the most stressful part of the day. Fairly smooth sailing, but it's a slog. Like you have to gain quite a bit of elevation to climb back up Alpha, and it's not so technical, which is good and bad. I mean, you gain elevation quickly, but you kind of just put your head down and yeah.
Summit of Alpha. Last summit of the day. Definitely a bit of a miserable slog up the standard route.
We descended the East Ridge, made one rappel at the bottom, and actually the final rappel, I took off my harness, went to go pull the rope, and of course it got stuck. And I was thinking, oh no, and started flicking it, and I was just thinking that I was gonna have to go like climb back up and free the rope, but eventually it came unstuck and came down, so that was a relief. That's always like, you take off your harness and like get ready to pack things up, and that's when the rope gets stuck. So we were lucky that worked out. I think we were 15 hours, 23 minutes. Yeah, I think we were moving pretty quickly, but certainly lost a little bit of time here and there on Serratus and in a few other spots, but it's hard to nail everything on a long course like that. You're likely to make a few mistakes here and there.